Now, one thing that I'd like to talk about today more than any other thing is the fear of the Lord. You see, one of the greatest things that have come to realize in relation to this time that we live in is the fact that now there is no consideration of the value, or rather to be precise, there is no consideration of the importance of worshiping God simply because we lack the adequacy of God's wisdom. Now, one thing that you need to come to realize is the fact that you see now humanity, or rather people that lack what appears to be the wisdom of God, live according to the standards of the innate minds, but rather the impartation of the Lord's wisdom brings about the ability to go beyond what appears to be the limits of humanity. Because you see, when we lack the wisdom of God, our lives revolve around appears to be what is exposed and visible to the naked eye. Rather, once we therefore begin to gain the wisdom of the Lord, now the wisdom of the Lord aids us to sink deep within spirituality. Because one of the greatest things that have come to realize the fact that you see now the things that we see are propelled to existence by things that are unseen, and there is no consideration of the things that propel the things that are seen to its existence simply because we lack the wisdom of the Lord. Because the impartation of the Lord's wisdom is the ability to go beyond what is exposed and visible to the naked eye. Now, one thing that you need to come to realize the fact that you see, we are living in a time that is relatively dreadful, times that are dominated by large measures of evil in all kinds of dimensions, and it is relatively important that we worship God, but rather we have deserted and abandoned the Lord for the sake of seeking what appears to be pleasurable. Now, one thing that you need to come to realize, now the Bible says in the book of Jeremiah 9:23, now let him who's wise now become joyful based on the fact that he's wise. Let him who's mighty now become joyful based on the fact that he's mighty. But let him who chooses to be joyful become joyful based on the fact that he knoweth the Lord. Now, we have no other reason to be happy as people apart from the fact that we know God. Now, you can find yourself in the midst of all kinds of celebrations with your own well-known people present to those celebrations, but one thing that you need to come to realize the fact that you are bound to attain an acceptable measure of joy, but the joy you attain as a result of finding yourself the presence of that celebration is a joy that is limited for the existence of the celebration. Because once the celebration ceases to be the joy that you encounter as a result of being in the presence of the celebration, ceases to be proportionally to a cease in the existence of the celebration. Now, this is a joy that you encounter through being in the presence of the Lord, and this is a joy that is bound to last for eternity. And this is one thing that we need to seek. Humans have no reason to be happy apart from the fact that now they know the Lord. Now, one thing that I'd like to talk about is this man Jonah. Now, we are living in a time that has brought us what appears to be an innumerable measure of oppression simply because all kinds of things are happening. Now, when God appeared to Jonah, he says, now to Jonah, head unto Nineveh to proclaim the riches of my wisdom. Brother, Jonah decides to diverge from the plan of the Lord. Jonah decides to diverge from the will of God, and for that reason embarks on a journey that is, created and established by the evil imagination of his heart. And on the way, he finds himself in a ship headed to Tarshish, and the Bible proceeds to say that as the ship is moving towards Tarshish, a sudden storm erupts. And as the sudden storm erupts, what actually happens at the time is the fact that now the captains of the ship begin to pray to their gods, hoping that things will turn out to be just fine, because they have not come to realize the fact that you see now the problem, rather to be precise, the reason that has propelled the problem to its existence lies within the boat, until they begin to examine the entire ship and come to realize the fact that what has propelled the storm that is at stake at that point is a man who has diverted from the will of God. Now, one thing that you need to come to realize the fact that oppression will never cease unless we detach ourselves from the things that have brought us to the PSP oppression. Now, one of the greatest things that have come to realize the fact that we procrastinate into realizing the reasons that propel the oppression, the problems and the struggles of people to its existence, brother, move around in reasons that we assume them are the true reasons that cause the problems that we encounter on an ongoing basis to the existence. Now God says in His word, now Jonah was the reason why the storm had erupted at that time, and the only way they are going to ease the storm is detaching themselves from Jonah. Now when they approach Jonah, they say, now who are you? Now Jonah says, now I am Jonah and I'm a Hebrew. I was sent by the Lord to Nineveh to proclaim the riches of my words, whereon I diverted from the plan of God. And for that reason, this disobedience of this man, brings about basically jeopardizes the lives of those who are within the ship. Now this man's mistake jeopardizes those who are in the ship, and the only person capable of setting them free from that jeopardy that is at stake at that point is Jonah. Now unless we detach ourselves from the things that are brought to us what appears to be oppression will never cease. Now one thing that I love to talk about more than any other thing is the fact that we are moving close to a December, and you all know what happens during the season. Now it is very important that we worship God. We spend our December in a very different way this year. Now we need to understand the fact that it is important that we fear God. The Bible says, were they not ashamed because of the abominable and detestable practices? Were they not ashamed when they had sinned against me? And He says, not at all. And He says, for that reason they shall fall amongst those that have fallen. He says, when I called upon my people, ordered them to uphold my expectation, expected them to incline their ears to my requests, to my commands, they rather seeked the evil imaginations of their hearts, and instead of moving forward, they moved backwards. You see, one thing that you need to come to realize the fact that you see God is watchful of our actions. That's the same thing He says. The book of Jeremiah 16 verse 17 says, now all the ways of humanity are visible in the sight of the Lord. He says all their iniquities are clearly visible in His sight, and there is nothing that is hidden before the sight of the Lord. Now this is one thing that you need to understand. Where is the fear of God, my brothers, my sisters? Where is the fear of God? Now we need to come back and understand the fact that it is relatively important that we fear God. You see, it pains me what happens out there. You see, you take a peek at what's happening out there, and you'll realize the fact that there's quite a lot of young people who are living their lives in a way that is relatively unusual. And we cannot blame them for the way they live their lives. But as I said at the beginning, you see now Jonah's mistakes puts the lives of those within the ship in jeopardy. You see, this is what happens in many cases. You see, it is extremely important that we learn to teach the truth, because one of the greatest things that have come to realize about the truth is the fact that you see now the truth is not truthful in love, is not truthful enough until those that speak the truth, or all of those that teach the truth, live up to it. Many people have been deceived because, and you see, it pains me so much, guys. Today, when a parent tries to reprove, you see, when a parent lays their hand on a child with the intention of reproving and correcting, the Constitution claims it's abuse. But one thing that the Constitution does not realize, the fact that the only existing abuse and violence towards its young people is the Constitution. Because today the child has the nerve to tell a parent that if you dare lay a hand on me, I'll lay charges. Where's the fear of God? I ask, where's the fear of God? Today when you step into taverns, when you step into pubs, you don't find old people anymore, but the kind of people you find is young people. Graveyards are being extended without measure because young people are down day and night, and it pains me so much that no one is doing anything about this. You see, if no one is going to stand up and contend against this evil that is forcefully taking the lives of young people, we are in no time going to look back over this time and think about the people that we are acquainted to, think about the people that we are associated to, think about our family members, and whenever we do think about those people, we'll be thinking about appears to be the past. We cannot any longer silently watch the devil destroy our lives this way. We cannot any longer watch the devil put our lives, bind us to the power that is linked to the grave in this manner. It is time we stood up and fought against this evil that has forcibly taken our lives. We raise our voices to the Lord. We pray for His intervention. Now this is the same thing that happens. Now I say to you, now it is time you detach yourself from your abominable and detestable practices. You detach yourself from the things that contaminate what appears to be the cleanness of the Spirit of the Lord that has taken over your life, and live to serve the Lord. Because one thing that you need to come to realize is the fact that it is relatively important that you do worship God. Now I want you to stop deceiving yourself. I want you to stop deceiving yourself, because love without God is more of a walking, talking, breathing, living death. Now love, knowing God is knowing life. We cannot any longer live this way. We lose our sisters and brothers on an ongoing basis. Diseases have taken over their lives. And what do we do? Nothing. And yet we claim the future lies in their hands, but what kind of future we mold this current behavior? What kind of future are we molding with this diabolic and delinquent behavior of ours, young people? Now, one thing that you don't understand is the fact that you need to respect your parents.
I'll be the one.
Treat yourselves right. You see, there are people who are sitting at the age of 30s, at their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they're thinking about the times of youth. They think about the opportunities that they blew. They tell you, the problem with us young people is that we don't want to listen. We do not want to listen. But what can I say? This is an introduction to the concept of salvation, young people. I remember I was talking to this young man, and he said to me, you see, I don't understand Christians who tell us about the coming of the Lord. He says at times I think, they want to make us afraid such that we actually follow this Christ. He says, I'm still young and I still want to enjoy my life. This is what he said to me. And for a very long time I kept on wondering, why do young people die at a young age? And when that young man had said to me, then I got the answer. Because if you had to directly translate that term to English, it would be something sounding like eating your youth, which doesn't make sense, because God has given you a life to live, and instead of living the life that God has given you to live, you rather eat it. And the problem is the problem with this is that you eat it so bad that at the end of the day you have nothing to spare, and for that reason we die young. You see, all this oppression, all this jeopardy that is at stake is avoidable, and that all comes to worshiping God. We cannot any longer continue behaving this way. Abazali bethu babulalwa sithi singabantu abatsha kuzawuthi kube nini khawuzibuse. Umzali wakho ukhala mihla namalanga, ukhala mihla nobusuku ngenxa yezenzo zakho zenkohlakalo. Kuba sithi xa sisibona sina 18, sina 20, sina 21 sesiqala uba sibadala singakwazi ukusiphatha. Now I want to tell you something that you do not know. If you take a peek at the world outside, you'll realize the fact that kunabantwana abaninzi abangenabazali, abangenazindawo zokuhlala. And for a very long time I kept on asking myself, utheni izinto zinje? Then I came to realize ukuthi most of abantu abahlala ezindleleni ngabantu abasuka emakhaya namahle. Kodwa ngenxa yongayilaleli imithetho yabazali babo, bazibona ngathi badala, abanakhokelwa ngabazali kunjalo nje, bazixela uba bangazimela, bakhethe ukuphuma bayohlala kulasikosanhlela abahleli kuso. Namhlanje bajongane nobunzima obugqithileyo, basola abazali kodwa abazali abanacala. Kuzawuthi kube nini bantwana basekhaya izinto sinje ndithetha nawe mntu osesemtsha kuquka kwezindlela zakho senkohlakalo. hlukana nezitshomi ezikusondeza nobubi, ezikusondeza nenkohlakalo. Ezibhato zihambayo mntanasekhaya azizukusondeza novuyo. Ndive xa ithi incwadi yesifundo esingcwele, inye into engavuyisa abantu kukwasana noThixo. You see, instruction, you know, the parents' instruction is not oppression, but rather it is protection from potential oppression. That is one thing that I need you to understand. You see, the world outside is like a predator waiting to seize the opportunity where its prey loses out, and at the time where its prey loses out, it immediately captures a moment and devours it entirely. It brings it to naught and makes it subject to its belly. Amend your ways, says the Lord, before him. Uthi either you repent or ye perish. But one thing that I need you to understand is that uThixo ukujongile mntanasekhaya. Usesengumntana omtsha, uyatshaya, uyasela. uThixo does not condemn you for izono zakho, kodwa, you know, this is a way of imparting what appears to be sense mntanasekhaya. Njengoba nditshilo kunabantu abahleli ezindlini zabo at the age of 40, the age of 50, bakhumbula amalanga wobutsha wabo besithi ukuba ndingazange ndaphuma ngale ndlela ndaphuma ngayo ebutsheni bam, ngabe ndiyinto ethile namhlanje, kodwa ngenxa yempazamo zobutsha bam ndihleli kule ntlupheko endikuyo. Mntanasekhaya, unawo amandla wokuzakhela ikamva eliqhakazile kukuwe mntanasekhaya. Isigqibo sesakho. Athi xa ithetha uMose incwadi kaDeuteronomy ku-30 kuverse 19 uthi, ndibisa amazulu ukuze azobhala ngesinqumo isigqibo azawusithatha ngeli thuba uThixo unika lona. Uthi ndiyanibisa, ndibeka phambi kwenu impilo nokufa. Uthi ndibeka phambi kwenu intsikelelo neziqalekiso zam. Uthi bantwana bam, ndilangazelela ukuba nikhethe impilo. Uthi uYesu Kristu xa isambula indlela ezimbini athi nasi indlela zokulandelwa, kodwa ndikhetha lena, ndinikhethela lena. Kodwa sithaba sizixelela uba no, sazi kakhulu sizawuzikhokhela sizenzela izinto esifuna ukuzenzela zona. Mntanasekhaya, ndifuna wazi ukuba sizawuqhubeka siphatha abazali bethu ngolu hlobo. Abazali bethu balibulela sithi abantu abanathi umzali wakho ne-high blood, utya iipilisi ze-high blood. You see, one of the greatest things of country law is the fact that you'll never know the value attached to moment until that moment is gone. Umnandi ngoku kuba usaphila, kodwa ndakuthembisa mntanasekhaya, mhlawumbi mamakho umzali wakho wathula, uyawufunda.